I'm Plutoburns, and welcome to Eagleland. Some of you may have noticed that I primarily spotlight bad romance or shoujo on this show, and there's a couple reasons for that. I prefer romance stories to action stories, so I have a larger experience pool from which to draw from when it comes to romance. And the other reason is that bad action is usually just boring. I mean, there are exceptions. If a piece runs in contradiction to established canon, you can piss off fans that way. Or sometimes you get something so incredibly inept that you just stand in awe of how terrible it is and how the hell did this get released? But for the most part, bad action is just dull and unentertaining and not really worth talking about. Oh, but that isn't today's manga. Oh, I found this gem while I was digging around looking for a sci-fi manga to review. And I was just immediately gobsmacked by how inept the storytelling is. And it's even a sequel to some other manga that I haven't read. Which means that I'm not allowed to complain that none of the characters get established because for all I know, that might have happened in the prequel. Might have, but probably didn't. Mahouka... Sci-fi Harry Potter takes place in future Japan. This is a world where mankind has harnessed the mystical forces of the earth by using cold, heartless technology. Oh boy. As a fan of Shadowrun, that kind of setup just pisses me off, but it isn't even on the list of the problems with this manga. And said problems rear their big ugly head on the first page. The first page of this manga is a chart. A chart no one will ever read explaining all the different schools in Japan and their names. In fact, a large portion of this manga is charts and exposition explaining their version of the Tri-Wizard Cup. Because nothing says pulse-pounding, adrenaline-pumping action like Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. They just really crank me up. Seriously, I can't believe they do this. It's not like charts are inherently bad. Manga and comics are probably the mediums most open to the use of creative and colorful charts for storytelling. Hell, a manga I really like has a chart in it. Halfway through the story on one page that simply details the plot you might have missed if you only started reading recently. It was not a full page dedicated to explaining who placed where on the school tests. This page is more useless than a snowball maker in Hawaii. God, I haven't even started talking about the characters. So the hero of this story is this guy named Tatsuya. He is coming out of the counselor's office and gets stopped by his friends, who I assume were established and characterized in the story that I haven't read yet. Ooh, this isn't a harem manga, but I got this. Sporty tomboy, bubbly and supportive, quiet and bookish, and Rei Ayanami. Yes! Now, I could praise the artist for so clearly conveying these archetypes using only drawings. I instead choose to make fun of the writing for creating characters shallower than a hole dug with a feather duster. So, Tats All folks was called in because he aced the written exam but did really bad on the practical magic test, so they wanted to grill him on the discrepancy. This makes sense, especially since, according to Tomboy, the teachers only know him through a computer screen. Wait, what? I know that the intro said that there's a shortage of magic teachers, but they don't have any classroom monitors? All the classes and events are student-run? That's dumb. Oh, and see this big panel with nothing but dialogue balloons and chibi character heads? Yeah, there are a lot of these. Now, in fairness, this was adapted from a novel, and it can be hard to tell an author that some of their precious dialogue and world building needs to be cut to make room for action and drawings. Seriously, I get the feeling this was written by Stephen King. Speaking of the student council, Tats for the Memories is helping them out with stuff. Hey, thanks for doing my work for me while I sat in this chair and stared at your tight behind. By the way, Mr. Straight-A Honor Student, do you know what events will be in the upcoming Tri-Wizard Tournament that this entire school is focused on? 'Cause if you don't, I have a paper brochure that explains all the events. Really? Okay, I'll play along. Monolith Code, where teams of 3 play attack and defend with giant monoliths. No, not that monolith. Mirage Bat, where you use magic to jump and keep holographic balls afloat. I like how the boys-only event has them wearing Tron outfits, and the girls-only event has them wearing fairy costumes. Stay classy, Japan. Ice Pillar Break, where you smash your opponent's ice pillars and guard your own using only magic. Okay, no lie, that sounds awesome. Speed Shooting, where you shoot down clay targets with magic. Wait, why do you need the gun? Does it even work? Crowd Ball, where you must hit as many balls as possible within the time limit into the opposing court using magic or the racket. Again, if you can hit the balls with magic, why use the racket? Wouldn't that just make it more complicated? And Battle Board, where you race along a water course on a magic-propelled surfboard. Yeah, that does sound pretty cool. Oh, I'm mostly going to be skipping over Tatsuya's little sister in this review because she has the hots for her older brother. It's not explicit, but it's implied enough to make me uncomfortable, and I really don't feel like talking about incest this episode. Also, she just isn't very important to the story. Alright, manga, now's your chance. Entertain me. Well, how about a nice long discussion about how Tatsuya should be on the pit crew for the upcoming tournament? Even though a first year has never done that before, Tatsuya does such a good job maintaining his sister's magical gadgets, they are ready to make an exception. Wow! I don't care! If only I had some sort of brain dipstick so I could visualize how little I care. Then maybe I could come up with some kind of metaphor. Come on, manga, do better than that. Well, how about we talk about the gun-shaped magical object in Tatsuya's holster, with one of the characters going fangirl for its designer, to the point that it becomes obvious that the designer must be a character at some point. Nope, still don't care. What else you got? How about some diagrams explaining how unaided flight is still unsolved and is one of the 3 great mysteries of modern magic, as well as some theoretical solutions. That sounds amazing! I am so ready for this! Oh, okay. Well, weight and speed magic has allowed some magicians to jump to great heights. In order for such magic to be applied to flight, you would negate gravity and then apply a directional acceleration. The problem arises when you try to control yourself as you are flying. Each direction change is another layer of magic that has to be applied over the old orders. And the max number of orders that one mage can handle is about 10, so eventually you just fall down. Now, there were experiments in Britain aimed towards canceling old orders to continue flight, but the results were less than ideal. Good job, Bruins. Oh, sorry, didn't catch a word of that. But your writing has now reached Hideo Kojima levels. The 4th chapter opens with Gary Stu here having solved the flight problem overnight in his spare time. And this is when the manga goes from adorably bad to kind of annoying. He gives his technique to some classmates to test, and it works for them too. Then, instead of watching a whole bunch of people playing around in the air, we go to diagrams explaining how he solved it. No! Boo! Show me the people flying! This is like if in the middle of the hoverboard scene in Back to the Future, we cut away to the doc explaining how the hoverboards worked.
He's on a hoverboard! Get it fly!
Marty! Now, I know you're busy, but we have to discuss how that hoverboard is actually working. See, the anti-repulsor lift technology was developed in 2020.
I'm gonna get that son of a bitch.
And we close on a scene where Tatsuya confronts a family member and we learn that his whole family hates him except for his adorable sister. Because even in the future, Japan is controlled by a discriminatory oligarchy of old families. This future sucks! And that's it. There's only 4 chapters of this manga right now, though there's quite a few more chapters of the prequel manga. Man, I had fun with this one. It has been too long since I dug into such an enjoyably bad manga. Nothing that insults my intelligence, nothing to get angry about. Nah, it's just crap. And I know it's the kind of crap that some people enjoy, so if you liked the art style or the story intrigued you at all, the author's name is Sato Tsutomu. His web novel is actually only the 2nd web novel to be published in the magazine Dengeki. The first one was Sword Art Online. Make of that what you will, I'm Plutoburns, and this has been Eagleland.
I reached out, fell short, now you're hurt, too many words. Breaking the silence, I felt it, bled it, screamed it, it only gets worse. And it kills me watching me's too angry for us to survive. I used too many words tonight.